Hey guys, I hope everyone's doing okay and you all had a great Easter weekend. I was able to go home this weekend. That's actually where I am right now. So my scene might look a little bit different, but real quick, a few of us were able to Google Meet with Miss Howard and I on Friday. So if you guys would like to live chat with Mrs. Howard and I, we're gonna do it again this Friday. So we'll be giving you information about that. Next, the most important things you can be doing for me right now. Every single day, you should be doing 20 minutes of Achieve. You have to do your Achieve lessons. You can choose your own Achieve lessons and then checking into Google Classroom. Those are the two most important things you can do for me, okay? So I want you to say them with me, Achieve and Google Classroom. After you do Google Classroom, I gave you assignments on Education Galaxy if you get bored and you have nothing to do and you're just dying to do some more reading for me. So what are you supposed to do? Achieve, Google Classroom, and then Education Galaxy if you run out of time. So for today's video, we're gonna start a brand new essay this week. I saw a lot of great essays last week, and last week I asked you to write about what you're going to do with your chance. And a lot of you wrote about how you're gonna exercise, you're gonna do your schoolwork, you might learn something new or practice something you like. Well, this week, I want you to write about one thing that you have done so far over this whole quarantine time. So what I did, I couldn't think of what I wanted, so I made a quick list. And what a quick list is whenever you brainstorm, you write down 3 or 4 ideas that you think you would write about. So what I put on my quick list, some ideas I might write about, I took Ava, you guys all know Ava, my dog. I took Ava on a walk, I baked a pie, I had a staff meeting, and I watched a movie. Okay, now I'm gonna think, which one of these ideas could I write the most about? Taking Ava on a walk, I just walked around my neighborhood and that was short. I could talk about what I saw, but I don't think that has enough information for a whole essay. Baking a pie, now that one has a lot of steps because I had to go to H-E-B, I had to learn how to make it, find a recipe, and then I had to bake it, and then I got to eat it. So that has a lot of steps, and that happened to me. Now, having a staff meeting, raise your hand if you want to hear about my staff meeting. Probably not. Let's choose something that's exciting. And finally, I watched a movie. Well, is that something that happened to me? No, that's not something that happened to me. That's just what I watched. I don't want a summary of your movie. I want you to be writing an essay about something new, something that you did for the first time. So what I'm going to choose is how I baked a pie. So after you do your quick list, we're gonna do our boxes and bullets. And you guys all know what your boxes and bullets are. In our box, we put our thesis, and then our 3 bullet points are our beginning, middle, and end when we're talking about a narrative. And you guys all remember, a narrative is a story that happened to you. So, thesis, beginning, middle, end. So for my thesis, in my box, I put, last week, I baked a delicious lemon meringue pie. Now, does that tell me what the rest of my essay will be about? Yes. Your thesis should always tell you what the rest of your essay will be about. So you can tell that mine's going to be about making a pie. The first thing I did was I gathered all the ingredients and organized my supplies. You might even notice I crossed out a word here. Is it okay to make mistakes when we do our rough draft? Absolutely. Actually, it's good if you make mistakes. That means you're getting better. So I made a few mistakes and I crossed them out. The next thing I did was I followed the instructions and mixed all the ingredients together. And then the last bullet point was I ate my homemade creation. See, that should not take you longer than 5 minutes today. Just a thesis and the beginning, middle, and end. And remember, there's no transitional phrases yet, no details, no similes, no metaphors. It's just our rough draft. So I want you guys to do that today, and then tomorrow we're gonna add to it. And today I have a very, very special guest reader for you. So you guys have all been dying to meet this person. And it is actually going to be my mom today. She's going to do our story. So here she is. This is Mrs. Beck.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mrs. Beck. I'm Joy's mom. And you can tell that I don't live in the city. Like, look what's across the street from me. I live someplace really different than where you live. I live where there's donkeys in the backyard and sheep and chicken and geese and ducks that sometimes build nests right by my front door. That's why I'm wearing my outdoor hat today, so you know that I'm kind of a country girl. Isn't that fun? Well, before we read our story, I thought you might like to see a picture of somebody kind of interesting, but I would like you to guess who it is. I'm going to give you some clues, and you can infer from the clues who this person is. Are you ready? Okay. Clue 1. It's a girl. Clue 2. This girl has 1 sister and 3 brothers. Clue 3. She's very cute. And clue 4, you see her every day. Da-da-da-da-da. Can you guess which one of these kids is Mrs. Beck? That's it. That's her right there, right in front. That's her. 1, 2, 3 brothers, one who doesn't want to get his picture taken, and her very good friend and sister, Christy. I have one more picture of her so that you can see how cute she was when she was little. Are you ready for this picture? Uh-oh, will you look at that? She's the one with the curly hair and the little grin. Her sister is the one that's holding her nose. That's my daughter, Miss Beck. She was cute when she was little, and she's cute when she's big. Today we're going to read a story called Westlandia. And Westlandia is a very interesting story. I want to give you a little bit of background so you can think about it. First of all, if you look at the cover, does this look like a story that could really happen? Or do you think it's a story that's made up? Look at the cover. I see a kid dressed in a dress and a cowboy hat, and it appears that he's standing on flowers. Well, that's kind of strange. If you look at the title of the book, Westlandia, that sort of sounds like a place, like Westphalia or Indonesia, something like that. So I wonder if this is a story about a place. And the other thing is, I wonder if our main character is a boy or a girl. And the last thing I want you to know is that I bet the character in this book has one thing in common with you. Are you ready? Here we go. Westlandia by Paul Fleshman. Of course he's miserable, moaned Wesley's mother. He sticks out like a nose, snapped his father. Listening through the heating vent, Wesley knew that they were right. He was an outcast from civilization around him. He alone in his town disliked pizza and soda, alarming his mother and the school nurse. He found professional football stupid. He refused to shave half his head, the hairstyle worn by all the other boys, despite his father's bribe of $5. Already you can see that you've got something in common with Wesley. He sort of feels left out sometimes. Well, passing his neighborhood's 2 styles of houses with garages on the left and garages on the right, Wesley alone dreamed of more exciting forms of shelter. He had no friends, but plenty of tormentors. Look at them chasing him through the street. Do you ever feel like that? Like you just don't have a lot of good friends? That's what he felt like. Playing them was the only sport he was good at. Each afternoon, his mother asked him what he'd learned in school that day. Oh, that seeds are carried great distances by the wind, he answered on Wednesday. That each civilization has its staple food crop, he answered on Thursday. Oh, that school's over and I should find a good summer project, he answered on Friday. As always, his father mumbled, "Oh, I'm sure you'll use that kind of knowledge often." Suddenly, Wesley's thoughts shot sparks. His eyes blazed. His father was right. He could actually use what he'd learned that week for a summer project that would top all others. He would grow his own staple food crop, and he would begin his own civilization. Da, 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 da. Well, the next morning he turned over a plot of ground in his yard. That night a wind blew in from the west. It raced through the trees and set his curtains snapping. Wesley lay awake listening. His land was being planted. We have to stop here for a minute. Do you really think that's how land is planted? Let's make an inference here. Is Wesley just dreaming this up, or do you think that this really happened? If you just wish for a garden to plant, do you think it will? Well, 5 days later, the first seedlings appeared.
Oh, you'll have almighty bedlam on your hand if you don't get those weeds out,
warned his neighbor. Actually, that's my crop, replied Wesley. In this type of garden, there are no weeds. Following ancient tradition, Wesley's fellow gardeners grew tomatoes, beans, Brussels sprouts, and nothing else. Wesley found it thrilling to open his land to chance and to invite the unknown and exciting. Well, the plants shot up past his knees, then past his waist. They seemed to be all the same sort. Wesley couldn't find any of them in a plant book.
Are those tomatoes, beans, or Brussels sprouts?
Said Wesley's neighbor. None of the above, Wesley replied. Fruit appeared, yellow at first, then blushing to magenta. Does anybody know what color magenta is? Does it sound magenta? Let's look at some clues in here. The fruit was magenta. Do you think that would be black? What about brown? He said it started sort of yellow and then grew to be magenta. Do you see any fruit in here to guess what color magenta might be closest to? I do too. Look at this. Magenta looks to be kind of a cherry, purpley, beautiful red color. And I'm telling you what, I'm just so hungry I might like to eat that stuff. Well, he took a bite of that and he found it to be an enchanting blend of peach, strawberry, pumpkin pie, and flavors that he had no name for. Now what he did was he ignored the shelf full of cereal in the kitchen and he took to breakfasting on the fruit. He dried half a rind to serve as a cup. He built his own squeezing device and he drank the fruit's juice thoroughly that day. Pulling up a plant, he found large tubers on the roots, and these he boiled, fried, or roasted on the family barbecue, seasoning them with a pinch of the plant's highly aromatic leaves. Boy, it was hot work tending to his crop, and to keep off the sun, Wesley wove himself a hat from strips of the plant's woody bark. His success with the hat inspired him to devise a spinning wheel and loom on which he wove a loose-fitting robe from the stalk's soft inner fibers. Unlike blue jeans, which he found to be scratchy and heavy, the robe was comfortable. It reflected the sun and it offered myriad opportunities to add pockets. Ah, now I see. This is the picture of the boy on the front of the book. For one thing, we can answer a few questions. Is it a girl or a boy? Well, it's a boy. What's his name? Wesley. Why is he dressed like that? Well, we can infer that Wesley is founding his own civilization with a staple crop. That's a crop that can provide more than one thing. He has food, juice, and now clothes. You know, his schoolmates were scornful, then curious. Grudgingly, Wesley allowed them 10 minutes apiece at his mortar, crushing the plant seeds to collect the oil. This oil had a tangy scent and served him both as suntan lotion and mosquito repellent. He rubbed it on his face each morning and sold small amounts of it to his former tormentors at the price of $10 a bottle. Hey, it turns out Wesley's a genius. Are you kidding me? Oh, what happened to your watch? His mother asked him one day. Wesley admitted that he had no longer wore it. He told time by the stock that he used as a sundial and had divided into the 8 segments the numbers of petals on the plant's flowers. He adopted a new counting system as well, based likewise on the number 8. His domain, home to many such innovations, he named Westlandia, and it is beautiful. Now we've got one more thing to finish our inference. What is Westlandia? I heard you say it. It's Wesley's land. Westlandia. You guys are smart. Uninterested in traditional sports, Wesley made up his own. These were designed for a single player, and he used many different parts of the plant. His spectators looked on with envy. Realizing that more players would offer him more scope, Wesley invented other games that would include his schoolmates, games rich with strategy and complex scoring systems. He tried to be patient with the other players' blunders. Wow, this looks fun. Look at all these kids. These are the kids that used to make fun of him, and now they're begging to play with him. I think it's because instead of moping around, Wesley decided to do something instead. Well, August was unusually hot. Wesley built a platform and took to sleeping in the middle of Westlandia. He passed the evenings playing a flute that he'd fashioned from a stalk of grazing up at the sky. He renamed the constellations. Oh, I love this picture. Look at how peaceful that is. His parents noted Wesley's improved morale. "It's the first time in years he's looked happy," said his mother. Wesley gave them a tour of Westlandia. "What do you call this plant?" asked his father. Not knowing its name, Wesley had begun calling it Swiss, from the sound of its leaves rustling in the breeze. In like manner, he named his new fabrics, games, and foods until he had created an entire language. Mixing the plant's oil with soot, Wesley made passable ink, and as the finale to his summer project, he used the ink in his own 80-letter alphabet to record the history of his civilization's start. Well, in September, Wesley returned to school. And he had no shortage of friends. And look, they're all dressed like him. That's an interesting story. That's the end of the story, but let's talk about a couple of things in here. Now, can you infer something? Is this story reality, or is it sort of made up? You're right, it's made up. And of course you can infer that because the wind came down and planted his garden. He's got one fruit that produces every single thing he does, needs, and grows in the garden. And not only that, here's the key. His parents let him live outside all summer. Does that sound like reality to you or a little bit of fiction? But you know, it also gives me a good idea. In his free time, when he was bored, Wesley could have moped around, played on his cell phone or his iPad, stared at a TV screen, but instead, he decided to do something that would involve and interest not only his own mind, but other people. I wonder if you could do that. That'd be fun. Well, I hope I get to read another story to you guys while you are in lockdown. Be good. Read a book.
Bye, guys. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.